Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. If you're new, welcome. Today we are going to be talking all about seasonal color analysis, specifically cool, true summer. If you were interested, stay tuned and let's get right into the subject of this video. If you were unfamiliar with what is seasonal color analysis, let's talk about it for a moment. Seasonal color analysis is where we look at colors that are occurring within your hair color, your eye color, your skin tone. Put those into one of four subtypes, which is going to be either winter, spring, summer, or fall. All of these are inspired by the 4 seasons that we experience in our calendar year. Getting a little bit more into the seasonal color analysis, that 4-color season has been expanded into 12 colors, which means each of those 4 primary seasons will have 3 different sub-seasons. For the summer season, we have light summer, we have cool, true summer, and then we have soft or muted summer. Today we are focusing on cool, true summer, which is going to be the coolest, chilliest colors in all of the summer seasonal palette. What is cool, true summer? If we look at cool, true summer and see where it flows into our seasonal color analysis chart, it is the middle of summer season. It is the original summer season, which means it is cool in its undertone. With its neighboring seasons being its 2 sub-seasons, we don't find warmth in this palette. If we look on the opposite side of the color palette at our sister palette, that is going to be cool, true winter, which is a very cool, cold color palette. But winter differs from summer as it has higher levels of contrast. If you think about a winter night being a dark, starry sky with snow on the ground, summer is going to be a hazy afternoon at the beach where the colors are a lot more subdued and a lot more muted. When looking at the overall color palette and looking at your features, you'll notice there's a little bit more of a haziness to your complexion. Your hair color, your eye color won't have a huge level of contrast. If you take a picture of yourself in nice natural light, turn your saturation all the way down, you'll see everything is just low together. There's not going to be a ton of contrast. Some hair colors that we see a lot within the cool, true summer seasonal palette are going to be your ash blondes, your ash browns. They can range from very light to very dark, as long as they are in balance with the overall skin tone. You'll also see some more cool silvery platinum. You'll see a lot of silver ashy toned hair. Eye colors we see a lot in the seasonal palette are going to be blue, gray, green, and your more grayish hazels. Celebrity examples of a true cool summer: Bella Heathcote, the Korean pop singer Boa, Emily Blunt, Kate Middleton, Bollywood actress Madhuri Dixit, Matt Bomer, model actress Denise Versailles, and Zac Efron. When I'm doing my research, I always like to find as many examples of seasonal color, because when you first do a Google search and you pull up cool, true summer, in my experience, you find a lot of fair Caucasian people. It's a little bit more challenging to find examples. I am trying to learn all I can, so I like to look at examples for people of color. I like to look at examples from Korean and Asian color analysis specialists. I like to find all the information I can so I can share with you the most well-rounded examples and overview for the season, because when I first started learning about it, I found it to be so overwhelming and confusing. Now that we have a better understanding of what seasonal color analysis is and what the cool, true summer color palette is, let's dive right into creating this cool, true summer makeup look. I have already applied my foundation, concealer, eye primer, and powder. All those will be linked in the description box down below if you were curious. When I was doing my research for cool, true summer and I was looking at some of the examples of makeup, I noticed a lot of very subtle, everyday, natural looks. If you want to create a look like that, check out the video I did for the light summer makeup palette, because that's a very soft, natural look, and you could just make the lip color a little bit more on the cool tone side, where light summer is a little bit brighter and has that element of warmth since it is neighboring on light spring. For our cool true summer, let's create something a little bit more dramatic. Let's have a little bit of fun. And this is a look that would work well also for going a little bit more dramatic for your light summer or for your soft muted summer categories. This is a great look for our cool true summers that could also be used by the other two summer palettes. The eyeshadow that I'm going to be using today is one I'm really excited about. This is from CoverGirl. Who does not remember the little CoverGirl enhancers? The quad that I'm using is Eye Enhancers in 235 Pure Romance. I'm going to be using the Wayne Goss number 18. This is just a little flat-edged packing brush or blending brush. I just like to keep things simple. I'm going to start off with this soft heathered gray purple color. I like to pick up the color all on the side of the brush, that way I can use it to pack on my color. Tilt your chin up, have a mirror stationary below you, that way you can look down. This will stretch your eyelid so you can see what you're doing while still having your eyes open. With this color being a little bit lighter, you might need to build up 2 layers, or you can leave it at 1. It's your personal preference. We just want a nice even base on the lid, and if you're not sure how high up to take your eyeshadow, look straight ahead in your mirror with your eye open, and I'm gonna come in a little bit closer. With your eye open, I like to take it just above the natural socket line. So wherever you feel the round of your eye meets the orbital bone or that hollow socket, angle your brush upward and blend it just above that point. That way a little bit of this color will be seen when our eyes are open. For your outer corner, if you're not sure what to do, I am making mine a little bit more round. Think about like a dome shape. I'm almost creating an arc from the outer corner to the inner corner, back and forth, with the point right over the pupil being the highest. If you want to take it a little bit more in an elongated shape, you can do that as well. Now I'm going to continue with the same brush. I'm just going to use the tip of the brush, and I'm going to go into the darkest shade. Now is where we're going to add in our drama, and I like to do this now because that way if I get a little carried away or it feels too intense, it's easier to tone down. So looking down into my mirror again, I'm going to take that point of the brush and stamp, stamp, stamp. I'm going to take it right up to that socket, and we should have a peak of that base color shining through. And then you can take a little bit and just stamp into your socket. So I'm going to take it to about 1/4 of the way through, so a little tick. And if you look straight ahead, this should almost be in line with the outer edge of the iris or the colored ring around the eye, keeping it right here. And then if you want to, you can wiggle back and forth, little tiny baby windshield wiper motions. Tilt your chin back in place. The brush is not really moving. I'm almost placing it and wiggling. And then you can change position. If you want to be on the safe side and soften it down a little bit, I like to keep a clean brush on hand. This is the Wayne Goss number 16, big, fluffy brush. And we want to keep something like this clean. That way we can have our little magic eraser where you just do little, gentle, buffing, circular motions. This will help to soften things out and give you a little bit more of a blend. I'm going to keep using the same brush. I like to keep a microfiber towel on hand, and I just wipe my brush off. That removed all of that darker pigment. That way you don't have to have a ton of brushes when creating your eye makeup look. Second to darkest shade, so it's a little bit more plummy, less gray than the last shade we used. And I am picking that up by bouncing the tip of the brush into the pad. I want to look straight ahead because I don't want my placement to go too far in and close off my eye look. Looking into your mirror, find where your lid is, and we can start working that up into that socket and then pull in just a little bit. We're creating a little bit of a halo effect where we have this darkest shade defining the outer corner of the eye, and this slightly lighter shade with a little bit more purple is defining the inner portion of the eye. And you'll notice when I'm doing my motions, I'm doing a mix between looking straight ahead into my mirror and then tilting my chin up and looking down. That way I can see things at various angles. And then I want to build the shade up a little bit more. So now that I have my guideline on, I like to look down into the mirror because I have a stencil in a way, and I can press and pull in some more depth. Instead of going back and forth, I have my base on both sides, but I've only done the darker and this mid-tone on the left eye. By doing this, I can start seeing how this looks. That way, if I want to tweak something, I don't have to tweak both sides. I can get this side on and this side on. I like to go back in with that clean blending brush and blend right over. And then step back. Look at the side with this slightly darker shade on the inner part of the eye versus the side without. Doing this, we can look side to side. We can see if we feel like this is closing down the eyes. And that's an important step because the cool, true summer, it is a very cold season, which is why we're working with our cool blue-based colors. It's not an overly contrasty color palette. So if you're someone like me who has very fair skin and you start working with some really dark shades on the eye, it's gonna throw off the balance of the color palette, making things look a little too heavy and too intense. If you want to go for more of a dramatic, more stark look, that is amazing and you go for it. But if you want to keep the overall harmony of the cool, true summer color palette, let's work with having one darker accent. Think about this as like a grounding neutral for the eye, and then we're going to use that mid-tone to start embellishing and enhancing and popping the features that kind of flow from this color palette. I'm going to do this other side, fast forward it so that way you can watch along and kind of see how this looks without interruptions in the blending process. I like to go back to that clean blending brush. And now I like to do those large arc-shaped motions on both sides. On this side, I felt like I built up the outer corner a little too much. That's okay. If that happens, look side to side, take a step back from your mirror. If you need to, take a full 1 to 2 steps backwards from the mirror. Use a light hand and blend. Doing this will allow you to spread that color and get balance. After a second or two of blending, step back, make sure you have not over blended. It's easier to take these little steps and adjust the color back and forth. For other color palettes that have more contrast, this will not be as much of a necessary step, but the summer seasons, light summer, cool or true summer, and soft summer, they have more subtle nuances within their coloring. There's not huge jumps. So we need a level of softness to our overall look. That way things don't become too harsh and too stark. And that applies even when doing more dramatic looks like this. We've used this lighter mid-tone all over the eyes as the base. We've used the darkest shade in our outer corners, and we've used this more mid-tone shade inner portion of the eye. I want to use this white shade, and I'm going to use my ring finger. With my chin tilted down, I'm going to place that right over the middle. And you can overlap those two shades we applied just a little bit. That will give us a pop of color right in the middle of the eye. So again, I'm going to use my ring finger, pick up the eyeshadow, tilt my chin up, look down into my mirror, and run this right over the middle portion of the eye. And we want to overlap a little bit of that darker shade in that mid-tone shade. That way everything is nice and blended. Then I like to go back in with the color that we used for these mid-tone colors and just softly wiggle right on the edges. And then use our designated clean blending brush to go through, do a beautiful, fluid, arc-shaped movement to make sure everything is blended. I want to add a little bit more pop. If you're someone who does not like glitter or shimmer, you can leave it here. We have a soft, satiny, halo, smoky eye. I want to add a little extra pop, especially now we're going into a big holiday season with this being December. Let's add a pop. For that, I'm gonna use one of my favorites. This is from the brand Viseart. Any cool toned shimmer shadow will work, but this one does it really well, and you can even create this look with just this little quad. This is the Pettifor eyeshadow quad in Lilas. I am gonna use my ring finger again with this shimmery color. This is like a shimmery heather purple color. And looking in my mirror, I'm gonna tap this right over the ball of my eye. You can see it gives just a beautiful sparkle. If you're someone who doesn't wear a lot of shimmer eyeshadow and you want to do this for just an occasion, another fun thing you can do is use your highlighter that you use on the top of your cheek. Use this on your eyeshadow look to add a little extra sparkle and dimension. Something I like to do is wipe off my finger on my microfiber towel, and then with nothing on the finger, I will just go through and tap over the edges to get a soft, hazy blend. That is a big key point of the summer seasons, is everything is very hazy, it's very foggy. I've said before in a video, when you're doing a more smoky eye for your summer seasons, think of it more as a foggy eye rather than a smoky eye, because a lot of times our mind associates a smoky eye with a rich, intense, contrasty, dark color. That is better suited for our winter seasons. Summer is a little bit softer, it's a little bit more hazy. There's a high influence of gray tonalities and nuances within the palette. Let's keep things a little bit more foggy and hazy. If you feel like things are close to being as blended as you want them, leave them here for now. We can come back and add mascara and liner, but let's add some color to the rest of the face. So that way we can start gauging how much more intensity our eyes can handle. So we have 2 seasons of all of the seasonal colors in the 12 season color analysis series that really don't do well with bronzer of any sort, and that is going to be Cool True Summer and Cool True Winter. And that's because there is neighboring palettes are both neutral leaning cool seasons. They don't have any neighboring warmth, and if we look across the color chart, there isn't really warmth in that palette either, as it's the opposite all cool toned season. Using a bronzer, it's a little bit of a faux pas for the Cool True Summer and Cool True Winter season. But if you want to add some subtle shape and dimension to the skin, you can use a powder foundation in a shade darker, as that will match your skin tone, which is inherently a little bit more cool. What I like to do is use a little bit of a highlight. The one I'm going to be using is from Dior. This is the Dior Forever Couture Luminizer in 02 Pink Glow. And I'm going to use a little Real Techniques setting brush. For my brush, I want something that's fluffy. I don't want something that's overly dense. Since this is geared towards setting the face with powder, it's a little bit more fluffy. It has a little bit more of a whimsiness to it. This means I'm not going to have too much product kick off. And to be safe, I always like to tap off my brush. That way we're getting just a whisper. I'm going to apply this right to the top of the cheekbone, and I like to buff in gentle circles, concentrating on the top of the cheekbone, working into the temple, and then we can feather out the edges with these gentle swiping motions. We're adding a little bit of glow, a little bit of brightness, a faint amount of contrast, but we're staying in that cool element to keep the overall flow of the palette. Using a fluffy brush, tapping off our products, there's not too much on the brush. We're going to start on the high point of the cheek, gentle buffing motions, grazing on the top of the cheekbone. So if you use your finger and you feel the hard bony ridge of the cheek, that is where we want to apply or highlight on that top side. And I like to work it into the temple just to add a little extra glow and a little bit more accentuation to my eyes. A few other places I like to add a little bit of brightness, especially for a party look. For your everyday, keeping it just to the high points of the face will do well, but for our evening occasions when light is generally a little bit more dim, you can get away with a little bit more makeup without overwhelming the season. I like to take a little bit just over the arch of the eyebrow, and then really making sure to buff and feather the edges, and then I'll even use my finger to go through and soften that out. This is also a great trick for people with hooded eyes, because a lot of times right under the arch of the brow is where the fat pad that causes the eyelids to be hooded can be the heaviest. So If we highlight over our brow instead of highlighting under the brow, will accentuate and add visual weight to that fatty pad of the eyelid. If we highlight over the brow, you're still going to get that accentuation, pulls the eye upwards, but using a little bit of highlight and feathering out the edges, then even tapping it out a little bit with your finger will add a little bit of softness that isn't going to accentuate that hooded bit of the eye. Another thing I do a lot is I'll tap off my brush on the palm of my hand. The palm of our hand though has a little bit more texture due to the way the skin is under there, having an additional layer that we only find on the palms of our hands and the soles of our feet. And that gives a little extra room to buff off some product. Go back, use your same brush to diffuse and blend out your edges. Now let's add a little bit of pop. Since we can't really do too much with bronzer, I like to play with blush. One of my favorite blushes for cool true summers is a staple from the drugstore. This is the L'Oreal True Match Super Blendable Blush, and this is in the shade C3-4 Tender Rose. Real Techniques blush brush. This is a little bit bigger than I would normally use for blush, but once again, it's soft, it's flimsy. It has a bounciness to it. That way we're not gonna get too much blush. Bounce my brush in. Pick up a gentle amount, tap off any excess. I'll start with my brush and my face slightly angled. That way I can place it right on the ball of the cheek and then turn my face forward and create this gentle C shape to create a very gentle halo effect around the eyes. I always like to get right here and flick the brush downward. So when you get to this inner portion of your iris, flick downwards, because a lot of times when we flush naturally, it will extend down here a little bit. And that just adds an element of realism to your blush look. Getting some color, but it's not too much. Everything's all about these soft layers that we can build upon. So on this side, I like to start with my head turned to the side, place my brush right here under my eye, turn my face forward, gentle circular motions, or you can even do gentle sweeps. Slide our brush to the hairline, to the arch of the brow, come back down, and when we get to the inner corner of our iris, flick down. Sped up in real-time motion. Looks like this. Very gentle movement. You want an extra pop. You want to mimic that effect that bronzer can give the skin. But how do you do it without a bronzer? The trick is using a blush with a little bit more saturation and using it in key areas. I'm going to be using a blush subtil from Lancome, and this is number 330 Power of Joy. It is a more rich berry pink with a low level of shimmer particle in it. I'm gonna use my same brush. This time what I'm gonna do is instead of tapping my brush in, I'm gonna take it and go 1, 2, pick up just a bit. If we look straight ahead into our mirror, let's think about the high points where the sun would hit our face. That tends to be right here over the arch of the brow because our forehead tends to project the most here. Same thing for right here under eye on the top of the cheekbone. So I like to give it a little swipe there, a little swipe there. And then you can build it up to where you have enough visual contrast that you're happy with. So again, on this side, find the highest point of your forehead that projects forward. That's generally between the midpoint of the brow and the arch of the brow. Add a little bit of color right there. And then follow that point down, find the highest point of the cheek. And then a little back and forth at a pop of color. And then you can build it up till you're happy. For this look, I want to add a little extra pop because blush tends to fade pretty quickly. I'm going to repeat the same step. A little pop on the cheek, a little bit more on the forehead, and we'll add just what's left over on the tip of the nose. Looks like this just makes me so happy. Now, a trick I like to do to really keep things feeling cohesive and blended, we're gonna take our fluffy brush that we've been keeping clean, use that same more intense blush, and just take the very point of my brush, 1, 2, tap it off, start in this outside corner, and we're gonna go on the edge, and then get to this outer corner, and we can buff and pull it out. I like to place it right on the seam of that shadow and buff just past the point of my brow. Since we've already applied blush, this color will help to fade into our blush look. And then we can go back in, same thing, a little bit of that more intense blush, back and forth, get to this outside corner, blend just past the edge of the tail of the brow, and then back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. We're getting that beautiful gradient that's helping our eye look fade subtly into the cheek look. Further soften it down just a little bit more because summer is all about being blended. We're gonna take our all over blush, the L'Oreal True Match blush, pick up a little bit more, and 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, blend. We're gonna go 1, 2, 1, 2, blend. Then I just like to wipe my brush off on the sole of my hand this time and give it one more blend. Now, we still don't want to go back to the eye yet. Let's add a little bit of color on the lips. That way we can kind of see how things are going. My way of thinking is kind of old school. I feel like if we have a statement on the eyes, our cheek will be our bridging tone. So think of this as your dark tone. This will be your mid-tone, and you'll have something a little bit more subdued on the lips. For my lips, I'm going to start off with the NYX Slim Lip Pencil, and this is the shade Pale Pink. And for this, you can be as intentional and defined with your lip line as you want. I like to use it more so on the side of the pencil. Do a gentle smile. Go right on the perimeter of the lip. And if you struggle with the outer corner, angle your pencil to where the point is at the outer corner. Use the side, pull up to the Cupid's bow. And you can do the same thing on the lower. Now, if you want to, you can use a brush to soften the lip line. I like to use my finger and softly blend over that lip pencil so it fades with the center portion of my natural lip color being the brightest, and it fades out subtly. I'm gonna finish off the lip with a sheer lip balm in a nice cool pink color. This is the NARS Afterglow Lip Balm in the shade Fast Lane. You can see it's just kind of like giving your lip this cool, chilly, pinky color. Really beautiful. And we're creating this visual harmony where everything's just flowing together. Now let's go back and give our eyes a little bit of love. My favorite mascara for the summer seasons, whether it's light summer, cool true summer, or soft summer, is from the brand Roman. This is a Korean brand, and their mascara that I love is the Han All Fix mascara in the color Long Ash. And that is a really beautiful muted gray brown. I just ran out of it and I, silly enough, threw the packaging away, so I'm going to use one that I'm currently really enjoying. This is from the brand Mood, M-U-D-E, which is another Korean brand, and this is their long curling mascara in the shade brown. Standard black brown color can also work really well for a cool summer because you do have a little bit more contrast compared to the other two summer seasons, so you can handle a slightly richer brown. My eyebrows are microbladed and I don't generally do a lot, so do whatever you do with your normal brow routine. I'm going to be using the NYX Thick It, Stick It Thickening Brow Mascara, and I use the shade Cool Ash Brown. I feel like I want a little bit more intensity right at the root of the lash. Could go ahead and do your traditional eyeliner. I want to wiggle a little bit of a color just between the roots of my lashes, so that way my eyelashes are the darkest point of the eye, creating that beautiful haziness. The pencil I'm going to be using is from Maybelline. This is the Tattoo Studio Gel Pencil Liner in the shade 901 Intense Charcoal. Now this one, it's handy if you have a little handheld mirror. I like to tilt the chin up and wiggle my pencil right at the root of the lash. Here, you could leave the look here, but let's add a little bit more interest to the eyes. Something I've been loving, and this is pencil that is perfect for the cool true summer season. This is the NYX Epic Wear Liner Stick in the shade Silver Lining. Most beautiful silver color for makeup, for adding accentuating highlights to the look. I'm going to use this pencil and add a little bit of interest right here to the lower inner corner of my eye. And then I want to extend just right here. And then I like to use my finger just to soften that out. So you can see on the side with the liner versus without, it adds a little bit of a catch light. It adds a little bit of extra attention and emphasis to the eye area. Take your eyeshadow brush that you've used to apply all the colors and you can just buff right on the edge. Then I like to take whatever's left and just go under the eyes. Since you're not applying additional color to your brush, you'll just get the residual of everything that we've applied on the upper lid to blend in and add some subtle shading. And I just feel like that really just ties everything together. I like to take it one step further just to make sure everything is really blended, and I like to use a powder with a low level light reflection to it. The one I'm going to use is from Well People. This used to be called the Bio Brightening Powder, and that's what mine's called. It does have a new name. I will have the proper name in the description box down below, but it looks like a basic white powder. I'm going to take my powder brush, buff it in, make sure we're coating our brush, tap off the excess, and then I like to go through and just buff all over. Further help make sure everything you've applied is soft and blended, and go back to my fluffy brush that I've been using to blend out the edges of the eyeshadow. Pick up a little bit more of that powder, and I'm gonna go right on the seam of the eyeshadow one more time. And that completes our cool, true summer, party ready, date night, slightly smoky eye, or as we called it, foggy eye makeup. I love this look so much. I know I said that in my light summer video. I am a light summer. I teeter into this cool summer palette. This whole summer series makes me very happy because these are the colors that I love to wear. These are the colors that really pop my features and just pull everything together. I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I did creating it. And if you did, please make sure you give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more seasonal color analysis videos. And if you like these colors in general, check out some of my other non-seasonal color content, because this is the type of stuff I go for on a day-to-day basis. This is what the bulk of my collection is. So if you're ever looking for suggestions for makeup from this color palette, we've got resources, because that is what 90% of my makeup collection is. Colors that work for my complexion. Take care of yourself, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye, y'all.